All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back with another episode, and we have a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. We got some sort of breaking roster movement that happened just a short bit ago. We also have a match to talk about that we got a full 3 points in an upcoming match. Oh, and yeah, we have the fantasy soccer playing for pride stuff to talk about as well. Hint, I'm in first place on that. Hopefully the other guys don't quite mind. But this is the Orange and Black SoccerCast.
We are underway in the postseason, the first playoff game ever played in Orange County.
It's a 1-2, Godoy. He's found a great ball into Voltson. Plenty of time. He smashes it home and doubles the visitors' lead. Thomas Voltson.
Now Segber sprinting forward on the counterattack. A little handsy there, crosses it. Pineda, the extra pass. Seaton finishes.
It rolls down to his left and burying aside. Well taken care of by the Orange County keeper.
We'll leave it for Aiden Quinn. He'll strike towards goal, and it's gone in!
An equalizer and a winner in second half stoppage time for Orange County off the left boot of Aiden Quinn.
This is the Orange and Black SoccerCast, the only podcast dedicated to Orange County Soccer Club, its fans, and supporters. Follow us on Twitter at OCSC_SoccerCast and on Facebook at Orange and Black SoccerCast. How's it going, Orange County? I had my mic muted there. I apologize for that. But welcome back to another episode of the Orange and Black SoccerCast, the first and only podcast dedicated to Orange County Soccer Club, its fans, and supporters. I'm your host, Ray Zamora, and I am with you each and every episode as we discuss all things Orange County Soccer Club. And this is a slight change here. Joining me like he does almost every single week, we've got Alan from the website, the podcast, and whatnot. Alan, welcome back to the Orange and Black SoccerCast.
We've conquered all of Europe. We're never gonna stop. From Paris down to Turkey, we've got to win a lot. So how's it going? I am pumped up after a great weekend of soccer.
Yes. Of course you had to start off with that.
Of course. I cut it early out of respect to you, Ray.
And before we even got started, before we went live here, we were talking about what we're going to talk about. You did not mention you were going to discuss or sing a song. Oh, man, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do here.
Got to blindside you, man. I can't can't reveal the before the reveal. It ruins the reveal.
You threw me off there, but still we're here to talk about some fun stuff. We're here to talk about soccer. Yes, your Liverpool somehow, some way came away with the win in that Champions League final, but we are not a Champions League podcast. We are the Orange and Black SoccerCast. We talk about Orange County Soccer Club. And USL Soccer. We do make some other things, but that's usually later on in the show, so let's not get too much into that yet. We do have quite a bit of things to talk about today. There's, I guess, what we could call sort of breaking news. I wish we had the moo going on here.
Moo.
Just earlier today, probably a few hours before we went live, we found out that there has been a roster or some roster changes as the club sent out a message in social media that the club and midfielder Charlie Adams have mutually agreed to part ways. This sort of matches what we saw last year with Nensel Selbal when he and the club mutually agreed to part ways, and then he sort of just disappeared as far as soccer goes. I'm thinking this with Charlie Adams has to do more with the congestion in the midfield. It also could have something to do with what we heard for those of you that watched the broadcast on ESPN Plus this past weekend when Orange County faced RGV, but there was a mention from the broadcast team, although I don't know how well we can trust it because there was quite a bit of weirdness going on with pronunciations of names and teams and acronyms. But they did mention that Christian Duke is about a week or two away from suiting back up and rejoining his club out on the field. So you would think with an already congested midfield, even before Christian Duke's back, just his addition to everything just makes it even that much more crazy. Alan, is there anything else you can maybe read into this move? I know it's rather new, so there's not a lot of information as to what happened. Probably won't hear much information in the coming days, but do you have any other thoughts as to why this may have happened?
I mean, maybe it's an issue of, hey, we want to do some rehab, but there might not be any spot or any availability for him to really get some rehab time with where the kind of team is right now. You know, you mentioned the crowded midfield, but also just if you want to get back into game shape, you got to play some games, and maybe he looks to sign with somebody else that can, maybe loan him out to a lower league or something to actually get some decent playing time. It's always nice when they say mutually, but I don't know, like, if a team would ever say something like terrible. Well, I guess the Padres did, but Adams was such an integral part of where the team thought they were going to be and the way they played last year. So maybe it's just hey, right now things aren't great. We don't have a place for you to rehab or to get some minutes right now. And maybe you're better off getting some time somewhere else.
No, definitely. And again, it's one of those things, and I think we talked about it. We've talked about it, especially earlier on in the season when the roster, or even before the season started, when the roster was being built, there was quite a congestion already in that midfield with Charlie Adams and players like, Aiden Quinn, Christian Duke before we knew he was injured. And then even some of those other players like a Harry Forrester, Liam Trotter, they've been sort of patrolling or been in the midfield position this season. You have a Koji Hashimoto who barely gets a chance to be on the pitch, maybe dealing with some injuries himself, but quite a few players on this roster that I guess you could say deserve some minutes out there. So again, there's nothing that we know concrete as to what happened. We just know that Charlie Adams is no longer on the team. And unfortunately for our fantasy soccer, for playing for Pride Month going on here, that's going to be a hard hit on Dylan's team, which is already a question, well, at least in my mind, a questionable team there with some of the choices. And now he's going to basically be one man short for the remainder of the month. We don't have any rules that say you can pick up another player if something happens to one of your players. It is what you get on that. Unfortunately, Dylan's not available right now to talk with us, to let us know his thoughts. He may, if he gets a chance, join us a little bit later on. If not, definitely find out what his thoughts are on that next week. But let's just talk briefly about the fantasy soccer before we actually get into the matches for playing for Pride. It was a pretty I will say this, it was an awesome week for my team. I think, Alan, your team was pretty steady there, some goods, some bads. And then Dylan's, again, that's one of those teams where like, what's going on with that? Let me just see if I could pull up all the details of this here. I wasn't quite ready for it at this point, but I figured we're already talking about it. Let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, you had the steal so far with Forrester. McLean played so well on Saturday night. And so he got a ton of points.
Yes.
For those saves. Like maybe a little bit of better defensive play would have kept you a clean sheet even. But McLean, definitely, between McLean and Forrester, that's the biggest difference. I had a pretty fair game. Seaton got a goal. Vinicius showed up. Leonardo was in there. Crisostomo and one of our team of the week, Amico. But when your team gets like 14,000 yellow cards, it starts you start. Oh. I think 2, maybe 3 of my guys all got yellow cards. So it's like I would have had a slightly better week, maybe a little bit more respectable week compared to you. But
you had not get into that. I had a red card in the 93 minutes or whatever it was.
So is that -4 points?
No, it's 1 for a yellow, 2 for a red, which is a combined 3 points.
All right.
I think. Oh, no. It is 4 points. It is 4 points. 1 for a yellow, 3 for a red. Yeah. So yeah, -4 points from Darwin Jones, who would have ended up having a pretty solid week also with 6 points in our fantasy league there. But yeah, Patrick McLean and Harry Forrester, who probably were the 2 best players on the pitch.
Yeah.
That did, of course you had Michael Seaton and Darwin Jones getting goals in the match, but those 2 were very solid out there. And by the way, both were my team. And again, McLean, a 4th-round pick, Forrester, a 6th-round pick. Like you sort of said, it stills in that draft there.
Now, do I get super technical and say it should be -5 points because it was 2 yellow cards and a red card?
We should get super technical there.
Because it's like first yellow, then second yellow,
Okay.
then red. I mean,
I totally am with you on that. I'm totally with you on that. I think that's totally fair. I wasn't even thinking about that when I calculated everything. So that puts my team through one match at 22 points. Your team has 14 points. And then Dylan had an adjustment there too because he didn't win. So he has 5 points. And, the hard part for Dylan heading into the Vegas match is we know no Quinn. Right. We also now know no Adams.
Right.
So he's going to have to rely on a big comeback with Contour, Hume, Trotter, and Hashimoto. Should we just sort of call it at this point he's pretty much eliminated after 1 week? Maybe we should throw that out on social media later on after we record this. We'll go on to social media and see what everyone thinks. Anyone that's listening, if you want to throw your comments, do you think Dylan's fantasy soccer for the Playing for Pride challenge here on the Orange and Black SoccerCast is pretty much already done? Again, he does have Aiden Quinn. He's only missing the one match, but still, there's not many matches, and we'll have to talk about it too. We'll have to maybe, me and you can discuss it, maybe discuss it with Dylan, because there is a friendly that's gotten thrown into the month of June that we could add to the mix, which might just throw things crazy, because maybe on that friendly you're going to see faces like an Aaron Cervantes or like a Koji Hashimoto that might join on there as well.
Right.
But let's ask this question, and you can go on to social media and tweet at us. Dylan, with his remaining roster, he only has 5 players left on his roster that are active with Orange County, and that's Aiden Quinn, who will miss the next game, Contour, Hume, Trotter, and Hashimoto. Is he done already? And he's already way behind me as the leader. He's at 5 points. I'm at 22 points, and Alan's sitting there right in the middle at 14 points, closer to me than he is to Dylan. So, so that's that. And if and when we are able to speak with Dylan, we will find out his thoughts on how all that went down. But let's get into this RGV match. You sort of hinted at probably what's going to be one of our major topics here is the yellow card bonanza for Orange County, as they were shown. What was your thought there, Alan? Was it like
14,000, I think,
something like that? Yeah, it feels like that, and it feels even worse when RGV got zero yellow cards, 0 red cards in that match, and Orange County just got a whole bunch. I was looking at the write-up that you did, and I'm like, really, that many cards? And I didn't even pay attention when I first saw it because I didn't watch the game live. I was actually out celebrating. My youngest son turned 7 that day, and he wanted to go out to dinner, so we went out to dinner with some of his friends and had a good old time. So I didn't get to watch the match till later, but I did look at Alan's post-game recap when he first wrote it up and submitted it, and I'm like, okay, a bunch of cards. And then when I actually went through and actually got to read it, Orange County, 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 including some second yellows in there. So let's just get right into it, Alan. What was happening there? Was Orange County really that more of a, I guess, sloppy team on the pitch, or is this another episode where we can just bash the referees for some of the decisions they made?
I think it was just, and this is a conversation I have with Dylan all the time. Like, I just want to make, just call it consistently. I won't feel when I know what's going to be a foul, what's not, what's going to be a card, and what's not. And there were just times in that game where, Quinn goes in, gets the ball pretty clean, doesn't really go through the player, but goes down to ground and gets that second yellow card. Like, he was blown away that it was called on him. But there's a aerial challenge where, Seaton's head, runs into someone's elbow because, that's rude. And it's a foul, but no card whatsoever. Elbow's a little bit up high. I thought there were some tackles that they made that should have been yellows but weren't. It seemed like anytime you went to ground, particularly coming from the back or the side, he didn't particularly care for it. But it was weird. There was definitely some soft yellows that were definitely fouls. I just don't think they were yellow cards. And on the flip side, RGV had some moments where you thought for sure a card was coming out based on the way he's called it, and nothing.
Well, and I think it was all set up at the very start. We just the highlights for those of you watching on the live stream, courtesy of USL Championship Productions. But what is it? The 4th minute of the match, Aiden Quinn gets called for a handball or an arm, in the penalty box, and also was shown a yellow card where I get it. Okay, maybe it's okay to call the penalty kick there because it does hit his arm, although an argument can be made that he had his arm close to his body and he was trying to turn away from the ball, basically hitting him in the face. But okay, you're going to give them the penalty kick there, by all means. Okay, that is probably the worst that should happen. I don't think there's any way that you can say that is a yellow card when you look at the rules of the game, where you're going to look at it as almost in any other league you'll watch for soccer. If a player has their arms against them in the body, it rarely gets called as a penalty, let alone any kind of booking with a yellow card or even a red card in there. Am I just maybe blinded by my Orange County eyes here in thinking that, or is that a honest, good thought on that call?
I didn't even think it should have been a penalty, but all right, it hits his arm. You can maybe argue that because it's coming up to protect like his face, that's what it looked like to me live. That, yeah, sure, handball, but to give a player a card for something like that, like, it needs to be pretty blatant that he's trying to use his arm to block the goal from happening, to get a yellow card. And I've even seen it where not to bring up Liverpool, there's a game where it hits off of Trent Alexander-Arnold's arm. Like, he puts out his arm to try and stop it, and they end up scoring, so they don't card him or get a penalty. But it's like he totally could have been given a red card because he clearly tried to stop the ball. So I don't think Quinn was trying to stop it with his arm at all or try to play it with his arm at all. I just don't see how you call that a yellow. Yeah, I think just give the penalty, and the penalty is punishment enough for that.
Yeah, and when you look at what happened there, the second yellow card on Aiden Quinn, that's more of a reasonable call. He did go in sort of recklessly there, although there was still, it still is a little bit more questionable, but still, in the bigger picture, I'm more okay with that being a yellow card than the initial one in the first 4 minutes. Luckily, though, that yellow card and that handball didn't play a factor in the match because Patrick McLean on Team Ray came up big early on, and he was big throughout the match there. But with a save on the penalty, which I think always goes down as a stellar moment on a match. What was going on in your head when you saw that save by McLean in the 5th minute or 6th minute of the match?
I was kind of stunned because it was just like a terribly taken penalty. I think it was the problem. And I think that was one of the guys they brought down even. And you would think that you put a decent shot on net. And I think even for McLean, I think it kind of surprises him a little bit that it hits him where it hits him. Like, it's like he dives for it, and then he's able to, I think he's like in shock that he doesn't corral the ball right away. Like, he doesn't get it cleanly the first time. That even actually made me more nervous than the penalty shot. I thought it was a pretty poor penalty shot, and I thought McLean, you guess the right way, and you make yourself as big as possible, and you try to cover as much net as possible to get that save. And I think that save and many others for the game, Patrick McLean was, if not like the second best player on the pitch, you can argue man of the match.
I would probably call him man of the match just because of the number of saves he made. He saves a penalty. And yeah, it was a good performance from the club. There was still some questionable stuff. Like, I will definitely say, what the heck was Darwin Jones thinking in extra time when he's already on a yellow card to grab a player like that? And when you do that, that's an automatic card. That's just anyone in soccer, anyone that watches it, plays it, knows. You grab someone like that, that's an automatic card. But yeah, I don't know. It was weird with all that, and there was just a few other things, but you look at overall, okay, Patrick McLean, awesome job between the posts. Harry Forrester probably had his best game in an orange and black and white uniform here in Orange County.
Yep.
Joe Amico, team of the week on there. Michael Seaton with a quality header off of a set piece on a corner there. And the awesome feed, I think, was it Harry Forrester that fed Darwin Jones for that second goal?
That was beautiful.
beautiful through ball. That looks like something you see out of the FIFA video game series when someone just sort of takes advantage of a slow defense. They just get that through ball and get a pacey guy up on the ball. And Darwin Jones, it wasn't easy for him. There was the goalie to beat, and the goalie put pressure on Darwin Jones, but Jones was able to finish that sequence of events.
Yeah, even before the ball through, the touch that Forster makes to evade the defender to get him free to get the ball through, like it was like the way he just pokes the ball by the defender to give him space, and it was like perfectly weighted so Darwin Jones could take a touch around the goalie. A little bit harder, he's too close to the goalie. A little bit softer, I think he has to slow down for it. It was just like that goal was like so tasty.
And I think you sort of called it off. Is part of maybe the success for Harry Forster in this match was his position on the field. He wasn't maybe being asked to do more of the shooting. He was actually being asked to maybe be more of that mid box-to-box type player or transitioning the ball, making some great passes there. That may have led to a more productive match. I know you also mentioned talking with Coach Braden Cloutier after the match that, not only in this match, or maybe you talking to him in this match, that he was pretty much the player of the match. And I know listening to the ESPN Plus stream, they mentioned multiple times that Braden Cloutier has mentioned that Harry Forster has probably been one of the best players on the team this season, which I think maybe comes to a shock for a lot of Orange County fans, just because maybe we expected more out of him, and maybe he has been pushing a bit out there. But again, it's good to see this performance from him. It's good to see this performance from the team for the most part, except for all those yellows. And again, the Darwin Jones red card there in extra time. That's just an unfortunate thing to happen there. Let's talk really quick though, because we gotta give props also to RGV with the one goal that they had in the match, probably one of the best goals of the week. A rocket from outside the box into the upper right corner. Nothing Patrick McLean could have done, on his spectacular night. I mean, I think many goalkeepers around the world, even some of the top ones, would have had a difficult time stopping that shot the way it went in. What was your thought on that shot? Would you agree with me? It was one of the better shots this week?
Yeah, and especially from, I think he's a defensive guy. I think he's like a left back. Definitely a defensive player, and they just gave him a ton of space. It's like everyone was slow to react, and he just took the ball up, took a real clean hit, and just picked out the top corner. And it was like sometimes you just got to tip your hat to a great goal that you're not gonna get that one.
And there was no way that Patrick McLean was going to get to it.
No. Hey, Ray. I think we lost sound. Like, I can't hear you talking. There you go.
Oh, I was muted.
There you go. It's like trying to figure out what's happening on my end, and you're like,
my mouse just moving. For those of you listening on watching on the YouTube stream, it was the same thing as well. It's one of those things. If you remember last week, I was fighting off a cold. Well, it got worse the next day and the next day after that, and I'm still trying to sort of recover from it. So I've been trying to mute this so that way when yeah. What was the last thing you heard me say, Alan?
It was so long ago.
Okay, were we talking about the weird stuff that was said by some of the announcers? Or you didn't hear me?
I didn't hear you that stuff. We were just talking about team of the week, the goal. Yeah, yes. The RGB goal.
So I was transitioning on, or I was trying to, except for I was muted there. But I was trying to transition into the weird ESPN broadcast with some weird pronunciations of player names and weird, acronyms for some of these teams. I think we all sort of discussed this either on social media or in text messages with each other. One of the big ones I can remember, Kristamoto, which was continuously throughout the match. That's what was said. Unfortunately, I watched it on a replay. I didn't watch it live, or I would have been texting or tweeting as the match was going on, trying to maybe let ESPN know, hey, there is an issue with your broadcaster and what they're saying. And it was both of them. Both of them were saying Daniel Kristamoto the whole match. I thought that was pretty funny. I also heard a few times when referencing RGV, instead I heard RVG. And I think, I don't know if it was you or Dylan was mentioning some weird acronym for Orange County, whether it was OSCS or something, or however that went. I get it. It's a tough job. I mess up all the time with my words, so I'm not going to sit here and bash people for it. But on this podcast, there's a difference. I don't get paid to do what I do. We jump on a Tuesday night, we record, and we sort of do the live thing, but we don't. I don't care. I have no problem if I mess up a famous quote, phrase. If I just mispronounce a word that I should mispronounce, I have no problem with it. But when it's an ESPN thing, I expect a little bit more. I expect the announcers to, know whatever it is that they're talking about. I know when I was watching a feed for the U.S. Open Cup, I kept hearing an announcer say Fresno instead of Fresno, like it's like Fresno, like almost like he was making two words there instead of just saying Fresno. With that like Z sound, it was like an S sound in there. So it sounded weird to me. There was this instance, and I think there was more than just Daniel Kristamoto, that weird pronunciation of his name going on.
Yeah, that was like Jerry Van Wolfgang when they were playing in San Antonio. We're calling him his old last name for the whole entire first half. But at least they were like, hey, we just found out that he took his wife's name because he got married, and it's Van Wolfgang, but still on USL, they haven't changed. And I think the best one I've heard was I was watching, I think it was even the Tulsa game. This was like really early, and it says Orange County SC, and the announcer goes, we're here in Orange County, South Carolina. I was like, what? South Carolina?
That's where and that's where they make it obvious that the announcers for the USL broadcast aren't at the stadium for the most part, unless that team has their own production team going on. They just randomly see SC. Oh, yeah. But it's funny because I don't know. Is there an Orange County, South Carolina team in the USL? I don't know. Maybe in the lower leagues or something. Who knows? But, yeah, I think that's all funny. Yeah, but it is what it is. Hey, I will admit it's a tough job to go live and talk for, in that case, 90 minutes of talking, and you have to sometimes pronounce names that are spelt one way and are pronounced a different way, or just, a Daniel Crisostomo. I mean, when you look at that last name, it's not a very, common last name. I think you probably have a better chance of finding a Kristamoto more often than you'll see a Crisostomo. But again, it's just one of those things. If you're gonna make money doing something like this, you should maybe make sure the pronunciation is correct.
Especially, I mean, I've listened to some like AHL announcers for hockey, and I've listened to, indoor soccer, and there's some that are just terrible, but there's some that like take their job pretty seriously and do the research and learn the pronunciations and maybe do some background, research on some of the players. I know it's hard to do with some of the USL teams, but I think you would just do enough due diligence. And it is unfortunate someone isn't there, because then they could just ask those questions of someone who knows.
Yeah.
But it's like, you probably know announcers who've called them or know them, and you can figure that out and get in contact. And I'm not to say that all USL announcers are bad. There's some pretty awesome and pretty great announcers that I've really enjoyed listening to their broadcasts. But every once in a while you get a pairing that it just seems like they don't take the time, especially if it's like maybe like Orange County versus, Tacoma. They might not take the time to do a bunch of research on stuff, but like people are paying to watch you call games, and it'd be cool if you just got the guys' names right. And we all make mistakes, and like I think I typed Henry Forrester instead of Harry Forrester. That's why I got corrected, or Doran instead of Aiden. Like, we make some mistakes, and hopefully someone catches them and lets you know, and then you just make sure you try not to do that next time.
Yeah, although I'm just tempted anytime we have a post with Aiden Quinn or Harry Forrester just to tag the other, the alter ego names there on our website. But yeah, no, I get it. It happens. And again, I'm not sitting here trying to say, I could do a better job, because obviously if you listen to our podcast each and every week, I probably couldn't. I'd probably butcher more names and phrases and whatnot than some of those people do. But still, it was just very interesting when I was watching that. And I don't know if it's just I get frustrated when it's constantly the wrong name, which in my opinion means someone didn't try to figure it out. Although, again, there's examples of me. I'm still scared to say the GM's name because I know I'm going to butcher it. Even though I've practiced it numerous times, I'm not going to say his name. I always ask Dylan to say it because, again, I just, for whatever reason, yeah. Really quick before we move on from the RTV match, I did see on Twitter that a listener, or someone on Twitter at least, Michael Rodriguez, maybe they're not a listener, maybe they were just following us on Twitter when we were talking about some of the players, but he was basically just asking if there's any chance OC would maybe try to appeal Aiden Quinn's red card, basically saying that first yellow was basically ridiculous. I don't know how any kind of appealing process works in the USL, and I don't know if you're familiar with this, Alan, of how it works. But is that something, as far as you know, or have you seen it before in the past? Is that something that can even be done in the USL?
I was talking to Evan, who is USL Pony, on the Twitter machines about it, and he said he's a Sacramento fan or supporter. He said he remembers there someone challenging a yellow, or the second yellow. So I think he said they tried to challenge the second yellow. They don't think they can challenge the first one. So it's like with DJ, it's like, well, his second yellow was clearly a yellow card.
Yeah, there's no way you can challenge that, because
right.
It's something that anyone knows. You do that on the pitch, you're going to get a card.
And with Aiden Quinn, I think, you might be able to challenge that one, but I haven't heard anything as far as them trying to, and it's Tuesday. So we probably would have heard something about it already. But I think at this point it's pretty safe to say that DJ and Aiden probably will not be making the trip to Vegas, or maybe they'll make the trip to Vegas, but they don't get to be around the park.
They'll be out cruising the strip while the rest of the team is
right.
playing some soccer at Cashman Field.
Right.
Yeah, and you mentioned the USL Pony. He's he's always, or usually always, on the USL show, which is part of the BGN network, Beautiful Game Network, bgn.fm, or at the BGN FM. And to coincide with all of that, our show is part of that group, and part of that comes is we are brought to you by Golden Goal Press and Roughneck Scarves. Stay tuned to the end of the episode to find out more about those two awesome, amazing companies. Let's transition then into the topic at hand, or at least the upcoming match, which is Las Vegas coming up. We likely know a couple players that won't be making the trip, like you just said, Aiden Quinn and Darwin Jones, which will definitely make things a little bit more difficult for Orange County. I think it was you joked a little bit. Maybe we can sign a couple players from OCFC because they recently beat Las Vegas in Las Vegas. So let's just get right into that then. Like, who's going to step onto the pitch and replace those two quality performers for Orange County? It's not like we're losing a couple of players that are fringe players or maybe are at the bottom end of the contributing starting lineup. I mean, those are two key members of the team. How does Orange County replace their productivity on the field this coming weekend?
Yeah, I don't know if you can necessarily replace what they bring to the team. I think those are, if you're naming your top 5 players on the team, those two are definitely in that top 5. Maybe you put Liam Trotter in that kind of maybe more a defensive midfielder role and allow your Cristostomo and maybe Harry Forrester plays that, second level midfield. Hashimoto did put a jersey on, so we know he might get a look. We saw Dupre out in. Hi, Dylan. We saw Dupre out there warming up, maybe trying to get fit. I don't know. I'm not sure where he is. You also have Kevin Coleman. Like, we haven't seen him at all. I'm not sure where he is as far as getting match fit, but maybe there's a surprise start from someone like Kevin Coleman up on the wing, and maybe you get Godoy or someone who didn't play as many minutes in kind of a more midfield role. Like I said, Harry Forrester's been playing really well there. Liam Trotter has played in that midfield role. So there's some options. It just doesn't inspire you the same way that having Aiden Quinn on that pitch inspires you as a supporter.
Yeah. And by the way, when you heard that nice ding right there, and Alan sort of already introduced him, we've got the person that's with me each and every episode. We've got Dylan. Dylan, good to have you on here, at least for part of the podcast, at least.
Yeah, sorry I'm late, everyone. I'm not even home yet. Just on some side road, and was like, all right, there's no way I'm going to make it back before you guys are finished, so I might as well join in now. Don't want to miss a week.
I know your streak was that close to being ended.
Exactly.
Yes, so I mean that's commitment right there, ladies and gentlemen.
Folks.
Yes, ladies and folks. We were just talking about this, Dylan, too. You totally missed it unless you were listening live. We were talking about the RGB broadcast and some of the goofs that the announcers had during the match with some pronunciations of stuff.
Pronunciations of stuff.
What did I say?
Pronunciations.
Oh, did I not say that right either, huh? Oh,
pronunciations.
See, Dylan, I think it's Dylan. Dylan comes on, and I just already start messing things up, ladies and folks.
I must stress you out or something.
You do, Dylan. You do. But we are now talking about
podcast. I don't know what your deal is.
We are talking about Las Vegas. We're talking about who's going to replace Aiden Quinn and DJ out there on the pitch. A suggestion from Andy, one of our loyal listeners. He mentioned maybe bringing in Giovanni Ramos-Godoy for Darwin Jones and bringing in Koji for Aiden Quinn. Is that a realistic replacement, Dylan, or is that something that you even think can happen?
Yeah, I think Gio plays a little bit better in the wing than he does up top, so I think that's going to be a good spot for him. I do wonder a little bit about Koji and his match fitness. I don't think it's there yet. This comes in despite having picked him for my fantasy team. I don't think he's ready for a full 90. I think we'll probably see somewhat of a rotation, a little bit of a platoon in Vegas. Normally I would say Charlie Adams, but of course he's no longer with the team as of a few hours ago, so that's quite the timing.
Unfortunate for you, by the way, too, with your fantasy team.
Yeah, so we'll have to figure out how that works. But I think I'm just going to take a big fat L this month. And this is why I don't play fantasy sports.
There we go. Another interesting suggestion came from the County Line Coalition Twitter account saying maybe Vinicius could be put out on the wing to replace Darwin. Similar speed set, similar maybe quickness out there. Is that a potential thought for you, Alan, or do you think that he is better fit for more of a striker or forward position?
I think it's a pretty good shout. I think when he came on earlier, he was the Seaton for Vinicius thing was a little bit that's been happening the past couple of games. But I think when he came on, he was playing kind of free flowing. He's usually that top of the line guy. But I think in OKC, he came on kind of a wing player. Against Tacoma, he came in for Darwin Jones as a wing player. So I think he can play wide. Yeah, against El Paso, he came in. So I think he can play wide. I think that's a good place for him because of his speed and his pace, especially with seats up top. I think it gives him some options to beat a guy on the outside and pass the ball in. But he has been. Neither of them have really been going the full 90 for the most part. Usually they flop for each other. So it'll be interesting to see them back out there together.
Definitely. Let's talk about this match, because I think Las Vegas was looking strong earlier on in the season, but they've sort of slipped up here as of recent matches. And also, just like Orange County, they recently lost to OC. What are our thoughts heading into this match? Is Las Vegas a scary opponent, Dylan, or is it an opponent that we can definitely beat on the road?
They are a scary opponent because they play this really negative style. They play well at home. I think they're undefeated at home. And I don't have my computer in front of me, so I can't double check that. But the last few weeks, they've really struggled, and they conceded 5 to an amateur side. I think they've given up 13 goals recently at home. There goes a car because I'm outside. God, this is weird. This is worse than the time I was at a soccer game.
You need to go to a safe location, Dylan. I don't know if I quite like you sitting on the side of the road while you're talking to us.
It's fine. It's like empty enough or something. But it's a big toss-up. Normally, I would be really worried. The field is terrible. They go for ankles. That's just the kind of style that they play in. That's the kind of person that Ronaldo seems like that's the kind of person that Ronaldo seems to be. But based off of this last form and getting absolutely shelled up in Reno last week, I'm not sure they are that really dangerous opponent that we need to worry about. I think they are definitely coming back to Cashman Field with their tails between their legs, which actually works really well for us because if the mentality carries over from Saturday's game against RGV for us, we should have no problems putting some hurt.
And hey, maybe that's what this whole, yellow card palooza that happened this past Saturday, maybe that was in preparation of a match against Las Vegas. Maybe we're looking to come into Vegas with a little bit more of that aggressiveness. Maybe we just started a week early there. But if you look at like the recent opponent, Reno, and you look at their match against Orange County, Las Vegas didn't fare as well against those teams as we did. Yes, we lost to Orange County, but we lost to them in a penalty shootout situation where Vegas just sort of got annihilated. I mean, how do you give up 5 goals to a amateur side? In Reno, we were able to at least come away with a draw by clawing back. Again, Vegas has a tough time there. So maybe that bodes well for Orange County into this match. And maybe this is the turning of the corner. I don't want to maybe jump too far ahead there, but Orange County is undefeated in the past, 5 or 6 matches now. And, we just come off a nice quality win against a tough RGV team who had thrown in a few MLS players to challenge us, and we still were able to come away. And by the way, the ref was against us that whole match, and we still were able to come away with a 3-point victory there, or 3 points in a victory there. Alan, what about you?
Yeah.
Do you agree with Dylan on his thoughts there?
There are 3 things that scare me about this game. Number one, as Bradley pointed out in the YouTube chat, Vegas is 4-0-1 at home this season. The second thing that scares me about this match is Orange County is 0-2-4 on the road. The third thing that scares me is that, Dylan, you're right. The third thing that scares me is that Las Vegas got hammered in the Open Cup and just got their butts handed them by Reno. They got yelled at like the entire week, and maybe they're motivated to kind of regain that consistency at home. And those are the 3 things that, I think if this game was in Orange County, absolutely. Las Vegas is 0-6-1 on the road. Yeah, we could totally beat them. It'd be great. We're in great form. We're playing really well at home. I think Orange County right now is a win at home, draw on the road kind of team. And that worries me a little bit about Vegas, because if you're trying to draw on the road, against the Las Vegas, who doesn't want to lose at home. That's a tough matchup. And as Jacob pointed out, yeah, we're not San Antonio, who is terrible on the road. But I think if we continue to play this kind of, we're going for the draw at home or on the road, I think we're going to start. And you can just as easily as lose those games as draw them, especially when you're down two of your top guys. So I think escaping with Las Vegas at a draw would be, I would consider that a win for us. Getting a draw on the road at Vegas, down two guys, I would definitely walk out of there with a draw and be super stoked.
Yeah, I think that's the tough part in this match, is the fact that we're going to be missing Aiden Quinn and Darwin Jones, probably two of our 3 or 4 most important players out there on the pitch each and every match. Definitely a tough thing to see there. Let's do this. Let's get into some predictions for this match here in Vegas. Let's go to you, Dylan. What are your thoughts on this match? What's the score going to be? Who's the key to the match for Orange County?
If we score first and we score pretty early on, and let alone get a bigger lead, I think we could probably come out like 3-1 winners at this match. But if we concede first, I could see that being a very different story, and we could be very lucky just to draw. I really don't know what to expect here. Orange County generally starts off really slow, so maybe that's going to change. Maybe with these guys that are getting in here and maybe making a debut, if you're a guy like Kevin Coleman, they'll be hungry to prove that they should be getting minutes every week. So maybe 2-1 Orange County. We always score 2 goals, so I think if you're making a prediction now that doesn't have at least 2 goals for Orange County, you're just being stupid.
All right. I guess let's hear from you, Alan. Are you stupid, or are you going to go with 2 goals for Orange County like Dylan says?
I have a real hard time seeing that. Orange County has scored 23 goals this year. 11 of those come from people named Darwin Jones and Aiden Quinn. I think Seats is going to have to pretty much put us on his back. And I think if Seats has a good game, I think we could walk away with like a 2-1 win. I think if Las Vegas targets him defensively and focuses on trying to shut him down, and he, has a tough game, I think, we'll be lucky with a 1-1 draw. I think maybe this might be a breakout game for Michael Seaton. I think he is starting to get a little bit more comfortable. He seemed in like really great spirits and super joyful after this last victory. The past he's been a little bit frustrated. Even his first home goal, he seemed still very like just a little bit frustrated. But Saturday night he felt really really loose and joyful about the team. So I think that's a great sign for Orange County. I think if he has a good game, I think Orange County wins. I think if he doesn't, we're fighting for a draw. So I am optimistically hoping for a 2-1 victory, but I will be super content with a 0-0 1-1 draw.
Perfect. And before I jump and give my thoughts, my prediction, I'm just looking at the live YouTube chat here. I see Jacob, who was a guest with us last week from the Down in the Valley podcast. He is throwing in his thoughts on this match. I believe I'm looking on there. It says a 3-3 draw. It looks like that Orange County will concede first, but be able to pull through with a 3-3 draw. Hopefully I'm getting that right. Hopefully he's not talking about something else. And I guess with that answer, Jacob, Dylan is calling you stupid for not saying 2 goals for Orange County, because apparently Orange County always
it's scoring at least 2 goals.
Oh,
at least 2 goals. They've scored.
So I apologize,
8 out of
Jacob.
13
I apologize,
now
Jacob.
is at least 2 goals scored for Orange County. Like, we are just amazing at scoring 2 goals. I think the last time we didn't score 2 goals was the match in Oklahoma, which was also the last time we lost, which was on 4/20. So it's been a month and a half.
You remember that date pretty well, Dylan.
Well, yeah, it's like the biggest holiday of the year for this state.
All right. For those of you out of state, maybe you don't quite know what the holiday is, but maybe you do as well.
Well, weed's legal in Vegas, too. and all of Nevada. So I'm sure they're
Is it
aware.
like that? Isn't that part of their soccer culture? Is there some sort of what is it? Some sort of sponsorship with a dispensary? I forget who we talked to about that.
Yeah,
something.
I think it was
with,
Carson.
Was it him?
You can take a shuttle from the dispensary, which is like multiple football fields. It's like a massive warehouse in the middle of nowhere in Vegas.
And they will basically let you purchase something there and then give you a ride out to the game. Basically, a weed Uber, I guess, or something. No disrespect to Uber, by the way. If
all the disrespect to them, they're terrible.
Oh, Dylan, I don't want us to get called out for calling another company horrible.
It's okay. I'll follow.
Unless Uber decides they want to sponsor us, then we will all fall in love with Uber automatically, quickly, and we'll take Uber everywhere, like that one song goes.
So now we've learned that Ray doesn't have a soul.
I do not. I will sell out. Whoever wants to sponsor our podcast, I will jump on board and I will say you have the best product ever. And if anyone has any kind of safety something or other for Dylan out there on the side of the road.
I was going to say, can we get a safety sponsor for like a neon vest or something? Yes,
Dylan needs it out there.
Maybe some flares.
Commitment. I'm looking at this match. I definitely think this is a match that Orange County, probably the best result is a draw, just because, again, you're missing Aiden Quinn, you're missing Darwin Jones. It makes things very difficult. You're on the road against one of the crazy franchises in the league. You know, I know Austin's in there maybe battling Vegas for that title, but I'm looking at this one being a pretty good match. I'm hoping, this is my hopeful guess, that it'll be a 2-2 draw, and probably I will say Harry Forster is the key to the match. If he has another solid performance like he did last week, then I'm thinking the better result will happen. If he struggles, because no Aiden Quinn and no Darwin Jones, that's why we need him out there to maybe perform more to the level we can hope for from him. So if it's more of the beginning of the season Harry Forster form, then it might be difficult for Orange County in this match. But hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's a great result for Orange County, at least a good result on the road, and a 2-2 draw for the good guys on this match. Before we move on to some random stuff, Dylan, you didn't get to join us at the beginning of the episode, but we did briefly talk about the fantasy soccer stuff going on. I know you mentioned it. You pretty much already are expecting a loss. We sort of proposed that question to our listeners, if they thought pretty much that your season is already after one match, with the loss of Charlie Adams, with Aiden Quinn having to miss a match, makes it very tough on this for you. Are you basically waving the white flag already?
Yeah, but if anyone from the front office is listening, I mean, I know we've got like a midfield crisis or something going on, but do I get points if I somehow like make it onto the team and make an appearance? Like, could that be a guaranteed win for me? Because I think that's the only way now that I could.
Alan, if you want to agree
back.
to this, I will agree to 1,000 points for Dylan if he can somehow suit up for Orange County and you have, now it can't be just you're sitting on the sidelines, Dylan. You actually have to get onto the pitch for at least, some time out in the field with the Orange County jersey.
Yeah, well, that's the only way I think I'm going to win this. I'm now down a player. And additionally, my number one pick is going to miss a big match that he has historically performed well in. So, yeah, I'm pretty well screwed. I mean, it's fine.
By the way, unless you were listening to us earlier, you also actually lost a point in this episode because Alan brought it to my attention that when I was calculating all the scores, I calculated for a yellow and then a red card on your points, but you actually two yellows and a red. So, yeah. So Alan reminded me of that. So instead of 6 points, you are now down to 5 points. At least you're still in the positive, but you are – I lost an extra point on that too because of the whole DJ stupid red card in the extra time section there, which still frustrates me. But you're –
It's okay, Ray. I'll give you a hug or something.
You're what, 17 points behind me, Dylan, after one match?
All right. Well,
And it was my second half of the draft that actually got me more points than the first half of the draft. Yeah. I was just waiting for you to come on so I could discuss this with you and just remind you.
It's really okay. I prefer the accuracy rather than points I don't deserve. I want to lose honorably.
All right, way to go, Dylan. And man, it sounds like those cars just keep getting closer and closer to you. Are you sure you're like all the way off to the side of the road there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like,
basically,
it'd be hard to hit me.
Okay, that's good to hear. Was there anything else we need to talk about before we go to the fun part of this episode? Alan?
Just that Dylan should rename his team the Huddersfield of the June Playing for Pride Fantasy League.
How dare you suggest that the rest of my players are going to go down with no fight?
Well, it's sad, Dylan, when you're now relying on more than half of your team is defense, which is already sort of at a disadvantage to get points. Basically, you're going to get the points for playing or starting, but very rare do they score or get assists. But yeah,
I'm just a little embarrassed because I meant to pick Joe Miko and I didn't, and now he's on the team of the week. I'm like, what was I thinking?
Yeah. I'm so surprised that Contour, no disrespect to Contour, but that he was the very first defensive player picked in this whole thing that we did. I don't know if maybe you confused him with Amico and you were hoping to pick Amico at that point. I don't know.
No, Contour's played almost every game, and I didn't think that I am pretty sure he's out with an injury. No one said anything. I think it's just a knock, so I assumed he would keep playing every week, but whatever, Look, I don't have any quarrels donating to Playing for Pride or Athlete Ally.
No, I get it.
So
this is all
could
for
care
fun.
less whether or not I win or lose, really.
But the winning of this is all for bragging. I mean, it's just you get to brag for a year that you picked the best 6-player team for Orange County, at least on our weird grading point system here.
I can brag about other things.
I'm kicking myself for not suggesting player or goal or team
of the week
or save of the week. Yeah, we'll have to remember that for next time.
We will. Next year that will be
because that could be a game changer too if you do the point system right and you just happen to get a guy that gets really hot toward the end. You can get like a player of the week for like a defensive guy that
get some
saves
points
your
for a nominee. Get some points if you win.
I'd reckon they're all pretty hot towards the end of the match because they've been running around for varying points, but at most something almost totaling 90 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, I was definitely swooning over Forrester on Saturday, so
it's okay. I won't tell your wife.
This is the one she might listen to. So
hey, the what he was like the last round pick for me, and he ended up being one of the top players in the first match of June. Perfect, worked out great.
Oh yeah, while we're on this subject, I got a whole bunch of stick from a whole bunch of people on varying platforms because I called out Forrester a couple weeks ago. He played really well, and I texted everyone back and I said, "Hey, I'll admit he played super well. Like I'm glad he did. I don't want him to fail. That just means that the team fails."
You were the catalyst.
Maybe it was all you, Dylan. Maybe it was all you, and you should have picked him in your draft.
No. It's
fine. Dylan, I didn't tell you that he talked about that in the interview when I interviewed him on Saturday.
Good old Henry. Good old Henry.
Yeah, good old Henry Forrester. Thank God one of us knows how to read.
Not me.
I see. We're getting there. We're getting to that point. One last question about this fantasy thing, Dylan. There is a friendly that has been thrown into the month of June against Club Tijuana. Do we want to add that gentleman, or do we want to say no? That's a friendly that shouldn't count. I think it'll throw in some weird twists because I would assume it would be more of the fringe players that'll be playing more of that match. But what are your thoughts? Let's just take a vote for it, Dylan. Yes or no to the Club Tijuana match being part of this?
It's in my interest, I guess. So yes.
All right, Alan. What about you?
Yeah, I think Playing for Pride is. I think it's defined as like any game in the month of July or month of June. It's Pride Month. The game takes place. Not July. I want to be over with it.
Henry, July.
You're gonna be leading us by like 4,000 points if we play to July. So
yeah, of course.
How many goals do you think we're gonna score? I want you to do the math on that one, Alan. I want you to write down and do the math of how that's possible. How many times is the Twitter gonna get hacked for 4,000 points?
It's Patrick McLean's going to make like 5 million saves in the month of June and July.
We're all going to be dead if that happens from just massive heart attacks.
So apparently I don't need to say yes or no on this because the majority has already ruled the Club Tijuana match will be counted as part of this. I don't think we ever set our podcast contributions, because the whole fantasy thing is our individual thing. This is like I will donate, or Alan will donate, or Dylan will donate. But as far as the podcast for the month of June, we're going to do I can't remember what we did last year. I don't know if I can afford $5 per goal for the month of June. I wish I could. I'm not that rich. The podcast does not
You
make
should have
money.
sold out to Uber, my guy.
I should. Hey, if a sponsor wants to jump on board and sponsor us, I will do that. I will do $5 a goal for the month of June. But I think we're gonna have to go more realistic to like I think similar to what we did last year. I think it was like, $2 a goal, $2 an assist, and if there's like a win, I think we said $5. So I think if we go in that route, we already are still putting in a nice chunk of change for the first match there. Again, this is for a podcast that makes $0. We make like a couple cents a month off of the little advertising we do have. But let's just throw it out there. We've got $2 for any goal or assist and $5 for a victory. So we've got the victory there already, and we've got some goals and some assists. So we'll keep tabs of that, and we'll make the donation at the end of the month based on all that. It's a great cause. We did it last year. We're doing it this year, and I'm sure we'll do it for years to come as long as this podcast stays alive. Let's get into our fun part. Let's just talk about some random stuff. Is there any soccer stuff we want to talk? And by the way, Dylan, no need to mention the Champions League. Alan already brought it up at the very beginning of the match.
I'm sure.
He even played a song for us at the beginning of the match to try and rub it in my face. And the great part about it, you weren't here, Dylan, is before we went live, we discussed what we're going to talk about. He did not even mention it at all about wanting to do that.
He knows how to play it. He played it.
Yes, he did.
Like a trombone or whatever his instrument was.
Ooh.
Oh, it trombone.
It was just me and my guitar.
I thought Alan was the piccolo for some reason.
No.
A man Alan's size playing the piccolo would be adorable.
It would be awesome. I'd love to see it. Let's go to you, Alan.
Probably really bring Henry's attention to him if he was there.
Or Adorns, you never know.
There's so many inside jokes happening. No one understands.
No one
I'm
gets
so sorry,
it.
everyone.
No. Oh, yeah, okay, never mind. Alan, go for it. Do you have anything to share soccer related? And if not, what's your random thought for the episode?
So I do have one non-soccer related thought and one soccer related thought. Women's World Cup starts Friday. I'm pretty excited to check that out. There is a feminist sports podcast called Burn It All Down. It's quite big and quite popular. It's 5 female podcasters from a variety of different backgrounds, and I think one of them is even Canadian. And they did a pretty good job of setting up the World Cup over the past couple podcasts, and they do a big giant preview. Some cool stuff coming up, like England and Scotland are in the same group. Japan is probably going to look really good. Obviously, the United States has a chance for their 4th World Cup, and they're one of the favorites. There's a couple first-timers, and the Reggae Girls are going to be playing, so I know they're going to be pretty excited to watch. So if you do not have the Women's World Cup queued up in your calendar, get on it. It starts this Friday. I think France and South Africa. And then it's bowls right into Saturday, and it should be pretty exciting. The women's game is getting more and more competitive at that level. So if you're not watching it, get on it. And then the unsoccer related thing is we are just a few weeks away, being Pride Month, of the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riots. Pride Month is Pride Month because of the Stonewall riots and the marches that happened subsequent from the Stonewall riots. And that's where the Pride Parade started. They weren't parades, they were actually acts of kind of civil disobedience, and these marches demanding that they have kind of equal rights and they're respected. And if you have a chance, do some reading and research on the Stonewall riots. They're pretty fascinating part of our American history, and that's why it's Pride Month in June. So that's kind of my random thought of the day is that with all of the celebration of pride and inclusivity, remember, why it started and why it had to be a thing.
What about you, Dylan?
It's kind of hard to follow up after that. That was a really good random thought to have. Very topical and everything. I haven't read anything this week because it's finals, so I've just been writing papers and taking finals and writing papers. But I can highly recommend an art gallery on just southwest of the campus of Chapman University. It's free. There's free parking. It's a whole bunch of Californian art. It's called the Hilbert Museum. It's seriously awesome. There's everything from Californian Impressionism to realism. They currently have a whole bunch of Norman Rockwell on display, in addition to a bunch of concept art for Disney from the 30s and the 40s. So it's just a wonderful place for art. So if you live and die by my literature recommendations, have an art recommendation and a nice, wonderful Saturday afternoon, good date idea or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, that's my random thought.
Make sure you do it when Orange County is not playing on a Saturday.
Well, you mean the Orange County games don't take up the whole day, and
it does. Though it does. You're supposed to get there.
The museum's closed by 5, so
you're supposed to start preparing for Orange County at like noon.
I wake up and I'm like, all right, in 8 hours, I guess I'll start getting ready for this game.
Yeah.
Also, the Champions League final was the most boring match I've watched this year. I cannot believe that these two super exciting teams that got through the most incredible semifinals that I've ever watched went and played Brexit ball for 90 minutes. I just wanted to take a nap. I regretted watching the game. That's how bad it was.
It's called like a month between matches at that point, which sort of sucks. It probably would be a lot better of a match if they played it like maybe 2 weeks at the most away from your last match there. But when you wait so long to try and sort of set the stage there, you sort of lose any momentum you had. I think with these two teams, the way they finished the semifinal rounds, I think it would have been at the best interest of soccer to have that match like the next week to keep that momentum going. But
I think that's what happens when you start a striker who is not match ready.
And when a guy hasn't played in 51 days and you're like, all right, mate, get in there and play 90 minutes.
But
I didn't do anything.
I mean, but they didn't really get him the ball in positions where he could do anything for the most part. So it's not all Hurricanes.
This isn't a Spurs podcast, but yeah, the Champions League sucked.
We should turn it into a Spurs podcast.
No, as soon as they scored that pen, it was like two teams. Like Tottenham wanted to slow the game down. Liverpool was like, all right, and I think it was just two teams that were like. Liverpool knew that once they had that lead that they had a good chance of just defending the 1-0, and they've seen Manchester United do that forever. And so they played that Mourinho, you have to beat us, because it's like we've already played the most exciting games in the Champions League, and all Liverpool wants to do is win that trophy. It was super boring, but from a Liverpool fan, it was like they just did the clinical job of getting up early and just not giving Tottenham that sniff. But yeah, it was, even as a Liverpool fan, I was more nervous than entertained. If I put myself in a neutral position, the Orange County RGV game was a way more entertaining, more nerve-wracking, more exciting, more spectacular plays.
More yellow cards.
And then that Champions League game. Yeah, you're right. That Champions League game, even as a fan, was kind of lackluster. But again, you're trying for a trophy, and it doesn't matter how you win, just win.
Okay, can we get over this whole Champions League stuff? Can I give my random thought, since you guys want to like rub it in my face that Liverpool won?
Yeah, you and Andy both want us to shut up about the Champions League, so get on with it.
Let me just say this. It is June Pride Month. It means a lot of stuff, and part of that means sort of being nice and not saying mean things or hateful things or biased things or whatever you want to call it. My son had a track meet this past weekend, and it was going awesome. It was going amazing until this one gentleman said some, I guess, best way to say it, some stereotype comments based on what he saw from another young man up in the bleachers doing something that I guess would be considered a traditional, in generally, I guess in what culture would say a traditional woman's type activity. Very frustrating. It upset both my wife and myself. We made a little bit of a scene. This is an elementary school track meet. Didn't say anything out of the line as far as didn't use any bad language or anything like that. But I did raise my voice at the gentleman for saying the comments that he said. His reaction was, hey, it's America. I have the right to free speech. I can say what I want. And not everyone has the same sense of humor. Sort of walked away from it. But a few people at the event afterwards mentioned to me that, yeah, that guy was a jerk. And all day he was frustrating me and all this fun stuff. So I just want to say, when you say something, think about how it might impact the person you might be talking about or making fun of or whatever it is. Part of the awesome part of this whole confrontation at this event is my wife asked a young, probably 7, 8, maybe 9-year-old girl that was right next to this gentleman. It basically asked, is it ever nice to make fun of someone? And the girl said no, right there, right in front of the guy, which I thought was freaking awesome. But ultimately it was just it was someone making fun of someone for doing something that person probably liked to do. It is what it is. You don't need to make fun of people. Let's have respect for others. Let's be nice. That's basically what will make this world an amazing place, is if we can all just sort of say nice things, be nice to each other, and not, I guess, make yourself feel better by making fun of other people and the things they like to do. So I just want to call it. I didn't want to give too many details about it because I don't want to, I guess, pour fire onto this. I just wanted to just say, be nice, talk, respectfully about other people. So I get it. As Americans, we do have the right to free speech. You have the right to think what you want to think. But in the end, that question that my wife posed to the young lady, is it ever nice or is it ever appropriate to make fun of someone else? And the young lady said no, like immediately. It wasn't even something she had to think about. She didn't even hesitate in front of this person that this grown-up she probably knew, which I thought was awesome. If we could all sort of think and answer like that young lady did, this world would definitely be a more awesome place. Let's go from here. I want to thank all of you for listening that have joined us on the live YouTube and been chatting along with us. Thank you for doing that. If you haven't done that yet, join us every Tuesday at 8:30. We go live on YouTube, and then we post this onto the podcast for anyone that doesn't have the opportunity to do that. So check that out. For those of you that listen continuously, thank you for doing so. For those of you that listen for the first time, check back some of our older episodes on our website, orangeandblacksoccercast.com. You can find Dylan on Twitter at OCSC_Dylan, correct?
That's the one. Also on Reddit at the same handle.
Yes. And then Alan, what about you?
A Underwood 48 at the Twitter machines. I have tried to calm down about my Liverpool love, but it's fine. Mostly on the Twitter machines. I have a Facebook, but that's kind of boring and teachery. So,
teachery.
Twitter
word.
Yeah, teachery. Yeah, it's
adjective. Something.
Ask the journalist, maybe.
Yeah, Dylan, you tell us. Is that an adjective? Teachery? Dylan's ignoring us now. Dylan.
I'm sorry, my phone was in my pocket.
Oh, you were already ready to be done with us. Oh my gosh.
No. So my phone's in my pocket. I'm zipping up my jacket, but it's locked. So I've got to unzip my jacket and pull my phone out. That would be an adjective, but I'm actually a English literature single subject credential major. So take that, Alan. Soon, this podcast will have 2 teachers.
He wants to be more teachery.
One of which is a complete idiot and wholly underqualified, and the other one is going to be Alan.
Ooh.
All
right, great, awesome.
Pull your kids out of school now.
For Dylan, for Alan, my name is Ray. This is the Orange and Black SoccerCast, and we are out. If I can play the music.
We will always follow you. Let it rain, let it pour. We will sing forevermore. Our opponents know we will fight until it's over. Forever orange and black. You can bet your life on that. CLC,
thanks to our sponsor, Golden Goal Press, the best choice for you to get custom shirts, hats, mugs, and other items for just yourself or your organization. Check out their amazing products at a fraction of the price of other places at goldengoalpress.com. Also, thanks to Roughneck Scarves, official scarf supplier to the MLS, USL, and US Soccer. Get custom scarves for your group or team at roughneckscarves.com.